It's Cinemalaya season again. The 12th annual Cinemalaya Philippine Independent Film Festival started back in August 5 and it's gonna run until August 14 next Sunday, so you have a few more days to watch these movies at CCP and select Ayala malls. I was really stoked for this year's Cinemalaya because it came back from their break from last year where they didn't have any full-length feature films. Now they've kind of expanded their program. They have a bunch of different sections now, and they've downsized their main competition films from 15 to 9, which is still fine. I mean, it was fine until I watched the movies because unfortunately Cinemalaya this year to me just was kind of bad. Compared to the years before, it just really didn't have the same standard of quality it's displayed. But still, I'm gonna review all 9, starting with the first 4. First up, we've got Tuos, directed by Derek Cabrida, written by Denise O'Hara, and starring Barbie Forteza and Nora Honor. And the synopsis reads, a woman chosen to keep an age-old tradition alive must now choose between her granddaughter's life and a belief that shackled her in solitary confinement. Now, I know all the Nora Honor fans are gonna murder me if I say anything bad about this movie, but please, I'm not saying this movie's bad. It has really good things about it, but I also have issues with the movie. My biggest issue was the fact that the story just wasn't as compelling as I thought it wanted to be. You know, it takes a really long time to set up, and then it kind of rushes to a conclusion by the end. And because it does this, like, it doesn't really develop all the little plot elements and characters that are introduced to us. This is a movie that clearly is trying to introduce a certain indigenous culture to us, which is good, which is noble, but I think that it relies a bit too much on the mythology. It doesn't really integrate this mythology into the story it's telling, because the actual story here doesn't really have a lot of meat on it. The way the mythology is told to us is definitely very interesting. It's done through these animated scenes, but the way these scenes are kind of stuck into the movie are a bit awkward. Speaking of awkward, some of the direction is a bit awkward as well, especially when there's movement and when there's conflict. Like, it doesn't really come across as urgent or dangerous. Also, Nora Honor's wig in this movie is really distracting. Like, it's so clearly fake that, I don't know, it distracted me. But overall, the technical package in Tuos is actually very impressive. The cinematography is fantastic, the production design is really great, and I really like how Derek Cabrida really frames some of his shots by using mirrors. I thought that was really cool. And of course, Nora Honor is great. I'm never gonna say Nora Honor isn't great because she's always great. Just through her eyes and her facial expressions, like, she really sells her performance. But I was even more impressed by Barbie Forteza. I thought she was phenomenal in this movie. She really manages to give you a sense of who this character is just from a few seconds of being on screen. Next up, we have I, America, written and directed by Ivan Andrew Payawal and starring Bella Padilla. And the synopsis reads, a dramedy about a complex half-American, half-Pinay who struggles to get her passport and visa so she can meet her father in America. Things start to fall apart when she discovers there is a problem with her name and her identity. She further stumbles upon a dead end when her American father surprises her with a visit in Olongapo. Now, I know people who really enjoyed this movie, but I personally really kind of hated most of this. I'm sorry. My biggest issue with I, America is the fact that it has no idea what it wants to be about. It tries to juggle all these messages about family, about sisterhood and friendship, about self-actualization, but it can't really commit to any of these things. The focus is so split, and every time it picks up a new plot element or a new character, it just wastes it. It drops it and doesn't really do anything with it. And so many of these characters just become so unlikable towards the end of the movie. Like, I just hated watching so many of them and I just couldn't stand them. And one of the things that really stopped me from enjoying this movie is that so much of the dialogue between Bella Padilla's character and her American father, like, it's done through this really exaggerated, broken English that I don't think they earned the use of, because the rest of this movie is trying to be, like, realistic and stuff. But, you know, the dialogue here just came off as caricature and sort of offensive. Speaking of offensive, like, this is kind of like a personal note for me, but I went on immersion in college to Olongapo where prostituted women, like, you know, it's a big deal there. And the only character that they have here who really is a prostitute, they portray as kind of dumb and irresponsible, and that just did not sit well with me. The scenes in this movie go on for an absolute eternity. They have no idea when to cut, when, you know, the point has already been made. So much of the direction as well uses shaky cam, which is completely unearned as well, and lots of really long takes with really shrill audio that made it so difficult to watch. Really, Bella Padilla is the only real bright spot in this movie. Like, her performance mostly is very, very good. But even she and, like, most of her co-stars have moments when they're they overact a bit too much, or it just doesn't come off as authentic. Anyway, moving on, because I want to keep these reviews really short, we have Hiblang Abo, which is directed by Ralston Jover, written by him and Naning Estrella, and it's based on a play by Rene Villanueva. This movie stars Lou Veloso, Jun Urbano, Leo Rialp, Nanding Josef, and Matt Daclan. And this is definitely my favorite of the Cinemalaya entries this year. It's not really good, but it's still my favorite. The synopsis only has like this one quote that doesn't really make sense if you haven't seen the movie. So it's basically a movie about four elderly people in a home for the elderly, and they're kind of coming to terms with the fact they're about to die, and they have unresolved pasts. It's really sad, but it's so it haunts you. You know, it's very complex, it's very deep, and I really enjoyed it. The acting in this movie is absolutely spectacular. All of these four elderly actors really convey this extremely layered sense of history with their characters and pain, but they manage to make their performances like distinct from each other. You can tell one apart from the other. But it's not all sad. When you have these actors together and they're just kind of talking and having fun, you really feel like they're friends, and it really just feels so genuine and so real. One other actor I have to bring up is Matt Daclan, who plays the younger version of all four of these characters, and he's so good because he makes you forget that he's just one person. You know, he really plays every single character well. And Ralston Jover, the director, really does a great job blocking this movie, so it doesn't seem obvious that it was based on a play. You know, there's lots of detail going on in the background and in the surroundings, but he does this cool thing with the camera that kind of swivels around to direct our attention towards things. There's also lots of really clever editing in this movie. My only issues with Hiblang Abo are the fact that there's some character threads and motivations that are left wanting. You know, not everything is fleshed out to the best, like, I think it could have been fleshed out. And this movie starts with a flash forward that I thought was completely unnecessary as well. But overall, I really recommend seeing Hiblang Abo. It's definitely worth your time. And lastly, we have Ang Bagong Pamilya ni Ponching, which is directed by Ina Salazar and Dos Ocampo, written by Ina Salazar, and stars Janice Del Prado. And the synopsis reads, a religious man who does petty crimes, Ponching, gets into text scamming one day. Assuming it will not really hurt anyone, his seemingly innocent text accidentally cons a recipient into thinking he is the bastard child of their late relative. Okay, where do I even begin with this movie? This is definitely the worst movie at Cinemalaya this year. It's still, for me at least, not as bad as like Diplomat Hotel or Separados, but it's really bad. I'm sorry. Just on the technical standpoint alone, like, it's really amateurish. The sound is very bad. The visuals lack polish, and I was never really sold on the production design because it felt like they only could rent out a few rooms in this giant house. Like, they never really got to film anywhere else, so it just feels like a lot more low budget than already is. There's also some horrible editing in this movie that just, you know, bounces the movie from place to place with nothing really connecting these scenes together. There's some weird, abrupt, like, musical montages that happen, and they only last for like 5 seconds, and then it's back to regular programming, and it's the weirdest thing. And this movie's only 80 minutes long, and I couldn't wait to get out of the cinema. Like, it felt so long, man. Like, 95% of the humor in this movie is what dragged it down, because 95% of the humor is like revolves around people not being able to understand English or Filipino. And, you know, some people might see this movie and think, oh, it's satire, you know, it's commentary about class divide, but I don't think this movie is smart enough to pull that off. Because when this movie is not making bottom-of-the-barrel jokes, like, it's trying to make us feel for these characters, which you know, you really don't buy, because most of these characters are just stereotypes and you don't care about any of them. And there is some truly atrocious acting from every single person in this movie. Everyone is so bad. Not even Ketchup Eusebio could have saved this. Like, they needed more of him. I laughed like twice in this movie. Like, that's it. That's all I'll give this movie. 2 laughs. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the first 4 out of 9 entries at this year's Cinemalaya. To recap really quickly, Tuos, I thought, wasn't really my cup of tea. I America was kind of bad in my opinion. Hiblang Abo was pretty good. I'd recommend seeing it. And Ang Bagong Pamilya ni Ponching was really bad. I'm sorry. But if you guys have seen these movies, I'd love to hear what you think. Whatever you think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.